YouTube and all who inhabit it, greetings from the Stop Motion Reviewer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the War for Cybertron Siege Voyager class Apeface. Apeface came out in late 2019 as part of Wave 5 of the War for Cybertron line, which was the final line of Siege as a whole. Apeface transforms into a Cybertronian jet and gorilla, and was predominantly known as a loud obnoxious jerk that all the Decepticons hated. Apeface is something called the Headmaster, meaning the head comes off to form a smaller robot. This little guy is known as Spasma. Spasma has a surprisingly well done paint job considering the Headmasters from Titan's Return are largely unpainted outside of the head of the bigger robot. Let's take a look at his much bigger partner, Apeface. Starting out in Apeface's Cybertronian jet mode, you can see the figure looks more like a freezer block than a jet. The rectangle with wing silhouette was a very common way of passing off a jet mode in the Titan's Return line, which is why I believe this was a figure that was supposed to be a main line release in Titan's Return, but it never happened because they were an obscure character which would questionably sell. The jet mode as a whole is subpar in its shape. I wish there was some semblance of an effort to modernize the jet mode because G1 accuracy isn't always a good thing, and this figure has an unfortunate curse of having an essentially 100% G1 toy accurate look. I think this mode is proof that sometimes it would be better to modernize a figure and maybe scrap one of his alt modes instead of adding extra jet parts to form a horrible backpack later on just to stay accurate to the source material. Transforming him into his jet mode into his gorilla mode is exactly what you think it would be. Ripping off the back wings makes for some ugly parts forming. The nose cone flips back and the head comes out of it. The arms fold out 3 times to fold his front paws, and the under kibble of his jet mode folds down to form his back feet. You plop in the Headmaster after crumpling him into a ball, and then you get his Ape mode. This Ape mode is such a huge improvement over the jet mode. It looks like it has so much personality put into it. The Apeface, no pun intended, is insanely well sculpted and extremely well articulated. The head can look up, down, left and right, and tilt side to side, allowing for some expressive poses. His arms are pretty standard in gorilla articulation, along with his back legs as well. Apeface's gorilla mode looks fantastic. It has a really deranged and unhinged look to him, and by unhinged, I mean these hinges on the torso won't tab in for shit. For such a great looking, well articulated mode, I've never worked with anything I hated animating with this badly. Nothing tabs in 100% securely, and you have to be extremely careful in not allowing anything to move out of place. It's finicky and fragile and highly annoying to move the shoulders, especially when the whole thing wants to open up and show its guts on the inside. Getting Apeface into his main robot mode is pretty much what you expect. The head needs to be removed and be replaced into a different connection point, and the rest of it's just folding up and extending out his rectangle silhouette. I do actually like the way that his front 8 paws form a full fleshed out rectangle to make his legs in rollout mode. This makes sure that his legs aren't going to be hollow once he's transformed. The rest of the transformation is simple and relatively self-explanatory by just folding down the arms and plopping on the head. This transformation leaves his main robot mode not at all hollow aside from the lower arms by a little bit. His main robot mode reminds me of Titan's Return Octane in the sense that he's a stereotypical Decepticon henchman. This guy has absolutely no subtlety to him whatsoever. He's a loud, proud Decepticon and he wants you to know that. His robot mode's articulation is somewhat lacking for a Siege figure. The head can look left and right, shoulders rotate and move out, biceps bend 90 and rotate, thigh rotation, universal hips, and ankle tilt pretty much explains his full range of motion. The lack of waist rotation and wrist rotation really signifies that this is a scrapped idea for Titan's Return. But just because he doesn't have Siege levels of articulation doesn't mean he's bad. He's an alright figure and his Ape mode's insanely fun. His robot mode is good and hefty, but the jet mode is really shoehorned in. This figure might not be the best, but it still had heart put into it. Even though it seems to be lacking, I really appreciate the fact they brought back such an obscure character. And I never understood why Hasbro was so scared to explore the territory of G1.5 characters. Because in Power of the Primes when Punch Counter Punch came out, everyone lost their minds and they sold like hotcakes, but they turned out to be an overrated nostalgia piece with not so great articulation, and a transformation that was very annoying because nothing tabbed into place the right way. But there are still underappreciated figures out there like Battle Trap, which was a fantastic Power of the Primes figure, which seems to be kind of an oxymoron coming from that line. Apeface is fun to finick with, but animating him wasn't as fun in this review. The Siege line was a love letter to stop-motion animators and collectors alike, and this figure didn't quite hit the mark with me. I give Apeface an 8 out of 10. It had heart put into the actual Ape mode, and the transformation is somewhat fun, but it's restricted in its quality with the jet mode, and the fact that nothing tabs in the way it's supposed to. This has been my review on War for Cybertron Siege Apeface. My next review will be on Titan's Return 6 Shot, so it may take a longer time to put this one out there.